Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, and Ryker. Huge news breaking today. Apparently, Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors want to get into the top 10, get a top 10 pick of the NBA draft this season.
Yep, that's it makes sense in a manner, but to me it seems like a bit more of a reset than they want to contend. But at the same time, if you look at the recipe or the model of Boston Celtics, the Utah Jazz, the Sixers, they all had great success, great playoff success. I mean, they all succumbed to the King, but these are teams that went farther than the Raptors, some of them, with, a rookie as one of their better, if not best players in the rotation, starting lineup. So, I mean, this is the way that the league is going. So, how shocked are you by this news?
I'm not shocked at all. If we look at what Masai Ujiri was saying last summer, he was interested in going young last summer, but then obviously held true with this team. Everybody wanted the roster back, see if we can get a kick at the King. Gave it our best shot, but obviously, we were no match for LeBron. So it just makes sense. This is the move to possibly go young. Obviously not blow up the roster necessarily. We're not sure how many moves Masai is going to do, but to get some young pieces and bring in and take a shot on a young guy and maybe bring in a superstar. We took a shot on OG last year with his knee injury, and he was at the end of the draft. He's not guaranteed to be a superstar, but he's showing glimmers of being a really good player in the NBA. So if we want a shot with these teams, super teams that are coming up, I think getting a run at the draft and staying competitive is definitely a way of going about it.
Well, the thing is, it obviously is dependent on the team that they're looking at doing a deal with and what they need in order to want to get rid of a top 10 pick. And so we'll get into that in a second. But I think if we're getting rid of our starting lineup, which is DeMar, Lowry, Serge, we're getting rid of veterans.
Any of those guys, yeah.
But then that means that our bench unit is now stepping up into being the starting rotation, and then we're bringing in another young guy. So we're kind of going into a not very experienced team. So I don't know if that is the best thing to do if they're looking for an immediate championship. But in the reverse, if the team that we're trading for a pick with, if they want our younger assets, and I mean, they're not necessarily that young. DeLon Wright's not that young. But if they want the bench unit that we think has more potential than the starting lineup, I mean, is it worth it to get rid of all those pieces for a potential superstar? I'm not sure. So let's just go into some situations then and see if any of it makes sense.
For sure. No, it's super interesting. You never really know with Masai where he'll go about it. But there's rumors flying around left and right about teams in the top 10 even willing to deal their picks. And one team is Sacramento. They came out. They have the second overall pick in this draft. They've came out and said that they're willing to deal the second pick for an established star. So we have a couple of established stars on the roster, DeMar, Lowry. Do you think a DeMar for the second pick could get that deal done? Yeah.
Well, okay.
And
so
would you like that deal to happen?
We'll look at the draft board, because what are we getting rid of for DeMar? The thing is, DeMar DeRozan is our number one scorer, and he's our fallback guy. So if we get rid of him, then we don't have a number one scorer, right? And then we have, of the top bunch, right? We'll just go through them really quick. DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Mo Bamba, Michael Porter Jr., Colin Sexton. I've skipped a couple.
Yeah, all players that could possibly step in and not be. They won't be DeMar DeRozan day one, but we're looking to the future if we're going young. And you mentioned the point earlier that this would be a long-term play by Masai Ujiri.
Yeah, for DeMar, that was the point that I was just about to kind of go full circle with. And I think the issue is DeMar, either as the number one option, isn't the best in terms of having a championship team, or perhaps he just needs more support. I'd probably lean towards he's not the best at being the number one option. So he needs
I'd agree with you there.
right? But if we completely get rid of him, what happens, right? Who takes his spot? And let's say we go for a center, a more undersized, somebody who's a little more has a little more dexterity in the post, and deal away Valanciunas as well, or deal away Serge Ibaka, right? Try to go a little more mobile to match this kind of game. We go with Marvin Bagley or something. Those guys aren't going to be the number one scorers. Right, so then it's like a late game situation. Say if we even were to get it that far, who's going to be the person that has to put the ball in 1-on-1? And I don't know if we're, able to give up DeMar.
Those are very valid points. DeMar DeRozan is our superstar, but we've seen that it's tough for him to be the number one option on a championship caliber team. That's a reality. So he's our guy right now, and I don't want to lose DeMar. But if we have a shot at getting a guy that could be a number one option on a championship team, maybe not immediately, but in the future, in a couple years when OG is older, Siakam's entering his prime, all these guys are coming together, that's a move you should definitely look at. And I know Masai, the whole GM staff is going to be evaluating these top players, and they're not going to give up DeMar for a guy that they don't think could be in that role. I think we both agree that that's the course of action.
Yeah. But are you comfortable as a Raptors fan to see the team explode or implode for 3-4 seasons? To go from, the number one seed in the East to probably slip down to the 8th. Who knows without DeMar, DeRozan on the team, if we would, even be a playoff team. I'd say we could probably muster playoffs in the East, such a weak conference.
Yep.
Right? But would you be willing to see the team significantly get worse for 3 or 4 seasons?
As long as we're a young, exciting team. There's something to look forward to. I don't want us to go back to the dark ages where we're relying on Andrea Bargnani to one day carry us to a championship. Okay. We want to be a young team that's showing promise, well built, well crafted, that could end up one day being a championship contender.
All right.
And if you look at it, you mentioned that the Raptors without DeMar will fall back. DeMar is an amazing player. But do you think, I'd argue that even if we don't add a superstar rookie and we lose DeMar and Lowry, just those two guys, I'd argue that we'd be a 6th or 7th seed team in the Eastern Conference. Just how well the bench mob plays.
I don't know, because the issue is the bench is what supported the starting lineup that wasn't great, right? Mm-hmm. They were only good in flashes.
Yeah.
Right? But if you take the bench lineup and now make them the starting lineup, then who fills in as the new bench, right? The bench would become the starting unit unless they're playing 40 minutes a game each. Now you're going to have a weak, second unit that comes out, and then would they be enough to sustain a lead?
Riker, in our deep bench, we got the new Brazilian KD, Malcolm Miller. We got Norman Powell, who's just waiting to get minutes. We got Coconut Water Bebe, ready to rock. He wants to return from that rough stretch in the playoffs. We'll have a new bench mob.
Okay, man. Listen, anything's possible. Anything's possible. New coach, Nick Nurse. We got, the spirit of the Raptors. We got the fans that are crazy. Well, I mean, we have, let's just say this, anything can happen. But if we get a pick, so you're saying that Sacramento, there's been talks with Memphis. There's been
Sacramento.
Talks with, yep. Memphis, you said as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Memphis. That's another trade rumors I want to get into in this vid. Memphis is trying to deal the 4th pick along with Chandler Parsons. Obviously, okay. Chandler Parsons used to be a decent player, but now has that awful contract. Would you be willing to maybe, take on a Chandler Parsons contract and not even have to give up a guy like DeMar DeRozan for that 4th pick?
Well, who else are we hypothetically dealing away here? Like
maybe a guy like Serge and a young player, maybe. I think that'd be a...
I don't know, because the issue is we need cap space to re-sign people like Fred VanVleet and to keep a rookie when we do sign him as the 4th pick in the draft, and to shoulder like a huge contract for a player that, used to be good and then sort of fizzled into non-existence in the league.
Yeah, I mean, but if we had that 4th pick, realistically, we could get a guy like Luka Doncic at that slot. Luka Doncic, maybe Marvin Bagley, Trae Young, those types of guys. Mo Bamba.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mo Bamba is probably going to go first. I don't know about DeAndre Ayton going first.
That's a hot take right there.
Listen,
It might make sense. But people are saying Ayton or Doncic.
Yeah, man, I don't know, but okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, Michael Porter is really low. So if we had a high pick, I mean, Michael Porter had no career whatsoever in NCAA, but he was brilliant in high school, right? He could be a sleeper.
Well,
you
he was
never
injured.
know. Colin Sexton is the young bull, man. He is crazy. So I mean, we got a lot of people that are just gonna. I'd say this is gonna be a good draft class. So I see what you're saying.
Most definitely.
Yeah, man. Who would you most like to see though? Out of everybody that's available.
Personally, either Mo Bamba or Doncic. Two of those guys I think have ridiculous upside. Ayton if we could get him, but he's likely going number 1 overall, and the Suns aren't going to deal that. But Doncic tearing up in the EuroLeague, and Mo Bamba, just freak athlete, can shoot threes. I think two of those guys are pretty nice.
Do we want a 7-footer though? Do we want a 7-footer?
I think you take the best player available.
Yeah, but man,
that's always my opinion.
The league these days kind of caps off at 6'10", and it caps off at 6'10" for small forwards. If you're a 6'10" power forward, I don't even know if you have any use. You need to be a 6'8"
There's
power
unicorns
forward.
out there.
You're put up to the center.
There's unicorns out there. Anthony Davis, Porzingis. They're taking over the league one day.
One day, yeah, maybe.
Yep. But to end it off, there's the one player that Masai Ujiri is really interested in looking at. Is I'm gonna butcher his name, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
It's definitely not Gilgeous.
Yeah, it's definitely not Gilgeous.
Gilgeous,
but
maybe.
Gilgeous, yeah. Well, the fans of the pod know I'm pretty bad at pronouncing names. But anyways, Canadian point guard, 6'6". What are your thoughts on bringing him into the roster?
I've never heard of him, so therefore I don't want him. I don't want a random Bruno Caboclo. I mean, he's relatively high on the draft board, but I think that we're a little hung up on getting Canadians in Canada. I think we should not settle for somebody who has ties and just get the best player. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. And if he turns out to be the best player, then go for it. I trust Masai Ujiri's ability to draft good players, but I would rather a player that's good now and not somebody that needs to develop a little bit in the G League.
Yeah, for sure. A Kentucky product, got a lot of upside. Definitely could be a decent pick. If we were to get a higher pick, like a top 5, top 7 pick, I don't think we should draft him. But if we end up, getting a top 10 that's 10th or 9th or something, definitely have a look at him. We're not too into the NCAA players. We don't have the full scouting reports, but Masai Ujiri knows. You guys probably know. So let us know who you guys want in the comment section. The draft is going to be wild. There's news coming out left and right. Just a lot of cool stuff happening. Stay tuned to the Raptors Digest.
Cool.
Sweet. Thanks for listening.